Today we take a look at something that I think is so good on the whiskey tank. Hi everyone, I'm Joe. Thank you for joining me today in the Whiskey Tank. I appreciate you taking some time of your day to spend it with me. If you're new to the channel and you haven't done so, please like, share, and subscribe and do all that good stuff. I'll get that out of the way early. If you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for joining me again. So today we're going to talk about a Jim Beam product, Old Overholt 11. I think this is an amazing rye and a good way that Jim Beam has like kind of dipped its toes into these premium ryes. A little backstory on Old Overholt. It started out as a Pennsylvania whiskey, and then after like World War II, it kind of dropped off. In 1991, Jim Beam brought it back and started putting the National Distillers spirits in it, their rye, and then got into just kind of making it a bottom shelf rye. It wasn't something they really invested a lot of time in. Rumor that a lot of that stuff was 3 years or younger. The released one in 2023 that was a cask strength 10-year-old. That one I haven't tried. I hear it's a lot more spicy than what this one is, but we're here to talk about this one today. So this is their 2024 release. It got its age bumped up a little bit to 11 years. The rumored barrels that they used for this release ended up coming from M, J, and F, and 5. And the proof on this is pretty low for what, you know, for being a cask strength. So those are probably more than likely be coming from middle barrels that they had. I would think too that this one is about the same availability, or was about the same availability as their 2023 release. And I know that that one was made up of 170 barrels. So I would assume that that's kind of what Beam used in making this as well. Like I was saying, this one is bottled at 107.4 proof, which is kind of low for a cask strength, which is what this is. And for those of you who don't know cask strength, that just means the same thing as barrel proof. So with a cask strength, that means no water or anything was added to this. If you're talking about a full proof or something, if you see that name on things, that could be whatever. Full proof is considered the barrel entry proof. So they'll proof it down by adding some more water to it to bring it to whatever full proof was. With something like a cask strength, whatever they get out of the barrel is what you get in the bottle. And that's what this is. This is a cask strength, 107.4 proof. As you can tell by looking at this bottle, I've been through a little bit of it. We have a little bit of a history together, and I've really come to enjoy this bottle quite a bit. So let's get a little bit in the glass and see how it does today. These bottles of Old Overholt, then you've got like Old Crow, Old Granddad. That's kind of like what Jim Beam refers to as the olds. And you can tell if you've seen that Jim Beam Old Granddad bottle that they have for the 16-year, which I don't have one of. At least from a distance, it looks very similar to this bottle. So I'm wondering if they're going to come out with something like Old Crow with something like that too. So in the glass, I'll say this looks pretty dark to me. You can tell it's not been chill filtered because there's some sediment in the glass, which is fine. I don't mind a little barrel char or barrel debris to be in the glass at all, or it could just be cork. But I know that this looks dark. It's very oily though. It's sticking to the glass incredibly, which is, I love seeing that, because what I find, you know, without being a professional or a whiskey sommelier or anything, what I find is when you have something that sticks to the inside of the glass like that, that usually is an indication of a really viscous or oily mouthfeel, which is something that I enjoy with whiskey. I like it when it coats the inside of my mouth. So on looks, so far this thing is looking good. On the nose. So this isn't a typical rye. So I know that from what I heard, and I hadn't tried any, but the 10-year was supposed to be pretty spicy and drinking pretty hot. This to me doesn't drink hot, and it doesn't come off spicy, and that's on the nose as well. On the nose, I'm getting more like a high rye bourbon smell. There's definitely some spice in there. I get some like cinnamon, but I'm not getting any of those mints or any of that kind of rye spice in it. I'm not getting anything like that. I get caramel in it. I get vanilla. I get classic bourbon smells out from this glass. And this, again, this is a rye. And I do get hints of like some stone fruits. So like by stone fruits, I mean like pitted fruits, cherries, apricots, things like that. I'm getting some of that nose on this as well. But overall, it's an extremely pleasant nose. There's no ethanol, you know, knocking the back of your head out when you're breathing this in. A lot of times, I do things in 3 when it comes to whiskey. So I'll go in usually like for 3 different smells, because that first smell you're getting is usually a lot of ethanol. That second smell, your nose is getting kind of acclimated to the whiskey, and that third smell is when you're really getting what's in the glass. And it's the same thing for the taste too. If this is my first drink of the day, like this is today for me, then I will go in and take a few sips before I give you a real good indication of what I think is coming out of the glass. As far as the palate, as far as the finish goes, I'm usually getting that in the first time, but as far as the taste and the nose go, then I'll dip in there a few times before I can really get something. And on this one, I don't have to do that. This one doesn't have that ethanol burn, even though it's a cask strength. This is a light cask strength, let's put it that way. But the flavors are not light and the scents aren't light. It's just it doesn't have the ethanol punch. So let's see how it is on the palate. Okay, so initially I get a little almost like peppercorn on the tongue, but it's not much, indicating it is a rye. But what I do get is I get hit a lot with those caramel and vanilla flavors, as well as some cherry in there too. And that's just an initial. I do want to go in for another little quick sip here. This to me is a fantastic rye, especially for beginners. Now, so far in this series, I think that's what I've shared with you guys. It's just been, I haven't had any kind of like clean your sinuses out, you know, punch you in the back of the throat type ryes yet. We'll get into some of those. But if we're going on this journey, I think I had E.H. Taylor on last week as straight rye. This falls along the lines of that. This is what I consider a very low rye, or at least this batch. And I know that Old Overholt isn't known for that. They're known for having some more punchy ryes, but I get more bourbon flavors off from this rye than what I'm getting actual rye flavors. And I have no doubt whatsoever this is a beam, because when I just went into it again and nosed it, I'm getting that beam nuttiness. So if you're familiar with any of the beam products, you know, Knob Creek, anything like that, you'll know that sometimes they have that nut flavor. And this is like a dry roasted peanut. This isn't like a boiled peanut, not like a peanut butter either. I just got dry roasted peanut on the nose on this too. And I'm gonna go on for another time just on a quick sip here. Okay, that was a confirmation drink, right? That confirmed what I was tasting earlier. I get caramel, I get vanilla. I get a sweet sugar with it that's slightly different than the caramel. There's almost like a white sugar that's in there too on the sides of my tongue. I'm getting a little of that beam nuttiness, and I'm getting a little hint of cherry. The finish is decent on this. It's not super long. The mouthfeel was viscous and oily and does coat the mouth nice, but the finish kind of dies off a little bit quickly in the end for me, which is the only thing that kind of holds this back as being, you know, a really stellar rye, right? A really good job. I do think that it is it's a great rye to pick up and try. If your friend has a bottle, don't pass up the opportunity. I don't think I mentioned before, but this was barreled in 2012 and then bottled in the summer of 2024. So it's got a little age on it. I think if you start getting too old on your ryes, you kind of go over on them, and I think that they're not as good. I think that 10 to 12 year range is ideal for a rye, at least for me. A lot of your MGP ryes that come out that are in that age range are phenomenal, and I think that this kind of falls into that category. It's got a couple things going really good for it. I think it's a low rye mash bill, probably between 50 to 65% rye. In order to be called a rye, it's got to be at least 51% rye, so at least 51 to 65 I think is where this mash bill is hitting the rye, and it might be out there, it might be posted someplace. So if I'm completely off, oh well, I'm off, and if I am, let me know in the comments. If you do know what the mash bill is for this, throw it in the comments, that'd be fantastic. But I'm betting it's between 51 and 65. There's some obvious corn influence in there. I think corn's the second highest grain that's in this. I think that the proof point is another thing that's going in its favor. I'm not sure what the entry proof was for these barrels. I definitely think it was lower than 125, so it wasn't going in there at the highest proof that they put it in. I would dare say this might have went in at 115. 112, something like that, and then kind of got down to that 107. I think 107 is a wonderful proof point, and I learned actually this past weekend from a fellow that owns Frederick Winehouse. I was having a chat with him, and he was letting me know that 107 is kind of the point where whiskey doesn't haze up the same as what it would if it goes in there and it's non-chill filtered, right? So if it has a chill filter whiskeys to make them clearer, and that 107 proof point is kind of where that you don't have to do that as much and still get the clarity out of the whiskey when it's going into the bottle. If I misquoted you, I apologize, but that's kind of like the information I was picking up, and that makes perfect sense, because think about some great 107s. Your Pappy lineups are 107, your OWA's 107. There's a lot of really good whiskeys that are put out at that 107 proof point, and this is one of them, and this just happens to be a cask strength. So overall, I would say this is the definite buy. Now here's something. If you go to Remedy Liquors online, and I'm not an affiliate, I don't have a link, I'm not big enough to have all that stuff yet, but I do some online shopping, and so I wouldn't recommend something to you that I haven't bought from myself. In fact, I've got a couple good bottles coming. They'll be here for me on Wednesday. I ordered them on last Thursday. That I'm ordering from Remedy. When I was on there, if I didn't already have this bottle and a backup up on the shelf already, I would have got one, because they had them for $79.99 on Remedy. So if you bulk and buy multiple bottles, you get cheaper shipping. The MSRP on this is $99.99. That's what I paid. I got 2 bottles up in the Pennsylvania ABC stores up there, sitting on the shelf. But now you can get it from Remedy for $79.99. And so there's also some other great bottles on there that you can look to batch that with. But check it out. If you are looking for a bottle of this, it's a great place to find it. And I haven't had any problem. I've ordered from them 2-3 times and never had a problem with anything coming in. You can purchase the insurance. It's really cheap on there. I haven't, just because I've never had a problem with them. They pack everything really well, and it comes delivered to me like they say it's going to be. So that being said, pick up a bottle of this. Get a pour from your buddy. Do whatever you got to do, but try this. I think this is a really interesting rye, and I think they did a good job with this. I don't know about the latest bottle. They got a 12-year out now. They just released. I haven't had a chance to try that, but I know that it's hitting the local area where I am, in the DMV area here. You definitely want to try this one, because from what I understand, this is much better than the 10-year. I don't know how that 12 is going to be. I haven't heard anything on it yet, but this is a great bottle. I want to say thank you for stopping in today. If you haven't yet, I mentioned it earlier, but if you haven't yet, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out a lot. I'm kind of shocked with the number of people we're getting to start following the channel. That's awesome, but I want to see this grow and see how big we can make this. I'm going to start doing reviews with some of my friends on here too, to get a couple other points of view. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for checking me out. Until next time, cheers.